I'm going to demonstrate my left-brainedness, so give you Mike Ford by the numbers. This is now my 17th year working for myself as a corporate trainer. I have delivered over 4,300 classroom hours of training. I have delivered by now, I think this is like my 276th public presentation, meaning dinner meeting, luncheon meeting, workshop, or conference session, across the United States, Canada, Nigeria, and South Africa. You saw some of Botswana there. If anybody was looking up at the swimming elephants, that's elephants demonstrating how they're purple and different. And I have 7 professional certifications. And because they cost money, I don't mind taking the time to explain that. I hope I don't have to explain the first 2, but we might have some first-time attendees or students or people aren't that familiar with APICS. So, from the left, reading across, Certified Fellow in Production and Inventory Management. This is APICS' longest certification. I think it's like 40, 45 years.
Yeah, about that.
I'm only 20 years old, so I'm not sure about that. It's based on the CPIM program, but by doing workshops, teaching classes, writing articles, speaking at conferences, you can attain the fellow level. There's an action item. Everybody in the room who is CPIM, I expect you to go after that higher certification. Great opportunity, volunteer to speak for our chapters. To the right of that, we have the CSCP, which I think was 2006 when we came out of that. That's the Certified Supply Chain Professional. For those of you not terribly familiar with these, the real quick explanation for Certified Production and Inventory Management, think internal operations. For CSCP, think the extended supply chain relationships with our vendors and our customers. The next 3 are certifications by the American Society for Quality, Certified Quality Auditor, Certified Reliability Engineer, and Certified Quality Engineer. The last 2 I just got within the past 6 months. CAPF is by the Institute of Business Forecasting. That is, but I knew I should wear purple, so head to toe I had purple sweats and a purple hat that I bought at the local Salvation Army. Yes, the women's section. I was getting to be a real right-brainer there. And it has turned out that Purpleocity is a very popular request. In fact, I just did it for Central Jersey last night. So I think this is now like the 20th time I've done Purpleocity. And I still don't know what it is, but maybe by the end of the day you'll help me with that. The original idea for purple came from the story of the purple bird. And this was an article that Mary Ann had read in Reader's Digest. And it talked about a little girl, I think she was like 5 or 6 years old, who came home from school crying one day. And the parents sat her down and said, "What's the matter, honey?" She said, "Well, the teacher scolded me out today." "Well, what happened?" "Well, we were doing art, and the teacher said, you can draw anything you want. So I drew a purple bird." And the teacher said, "There's no such thing as a purple bird." And the little girl looked up at the teacher and said, "Yes, there is. I can see it in my mind." The teacher still scolded her and said, "There's no such thing as a purple bird." So the parents decided that from that day forward, anything they could imagine or dream about or hope for, they were going to call a purple bird. So the first action item I have for you, among many homework assignments I'm going to give tonight and never check up on, but anything, there's something, whether it's in work or your personal life, you dream of something, or you have a goal, or you think outside of the box, or you think of something totally new or different, I want you to start calling that a purple bird. So our goal is to try and go through life and accumulate as many purple birds as possible. The purple passion refers to the concept of strategic and top-down planning. And I'm a huge advocate of the APICS top-down planning hierarchy. So those of us who have gone through the certification or taken any of the classes, you know, we do, it's vision, and then we have a mission statement, corporate strategy, business planning, sales and operations planning, master production scheduling, then MRP and stuff. And I love that stuff. In fact, that was one of the things that originally got me interested in APICS. When I worked at a company in Binghamton back in 95 or 96, and a coworker turned me on to APICS by talking about the great thing about this organization, it talks about how the things you do in operations, your daily, weekly tasks and activities, gotta support some higher level strategic goals of the organization. And over my 17 years as a consultant and trainer, it's been very frustrating to me to notice how many companies, you say, what's your vision and mission statement? And somebody's, oh, I don't know, it's on the website, or geez, I gotta have the back of my business card to read it, or yeah, it's a banner on the website. It's just something touchy-feely. And it's like it's a disconnect. And I say, no, there's gotta be some tangible connection between what you do in terms of your daily tasks and what the organization seeks to accomplish at a higher level. And not only am I a huge fan of this when it comes to business planning, but I think in our personal lives, if you want to be successful, you should have a strategic plan. Now, let me take this opportunity for a survey. How many people have a strategic plan for their life where you've sat down and you've created your own vision and mission statement and goals and objectives? This is an APICS crowd, and we have 3 hands.
My wife has.
My wife. In other words, the CEO has done that task for you. Did she not allow you to be empowered and seek input, or so it was totally top down, no bottom up replanning as a result of that? If you wish to be successful in life, you gotta have some plan moving forward. Down planning, and I'm a huge advocate of the APICS top-down planning hierarchy. So those of us who have gone through the certification or taken any of the classes, you know, we do, it's vision, and then we have a mission statement, corporate strategy, business planning, sales and operations planning, master production scheduling, then MRP and stuff. And I love that stuff. In fact, that was one of the things that originally got me interested in APICS. When I worked at a company in Binghamton back in 95 or 96, and a coworker turned me on to APICS by talking about the great thing about this organization. It talks about how the things you do in operations, your daily, weekly tasks and activities, gotta support some higher level strategic goals of the organization. And over my 17 years as a consultant and trainer, it's been very frustrating to me to notice how many companies, you say, what's your vision and mission statement? And somebody's, oh, I don't know, it's on the website, or geez, I gotta have the back of my business card to read it, or yeah, it's a banner on the website. It's just something touchy-feely. And it's like it's a disconnect. And I say, no, there's gotta be some tangible connection between what you do in terms of your daily tasks and what the organization seeks to accomplish at a higher level. And not only am I a huge fan of this when it comes to business planning, but I think in our personal lives, if you want to be successful, you should have a strategic plan. Now, let me take this opportunity for a survey. How many people have a strategic plan for their life where you've sat down and you've created your own vision and mission statement and goals and objectives? This is an APICS crowd, and we have 3 hands.
My wife has.
My wife. In other words, the CEO has done that task for you. Did she not allow you to be empowered and seek input, or so it was totally top down, no bottom up replanning as a result of that? If you wish to be successful in life, you gotta have some plan moving forward. We used to be Dilbert, that's what his alter persona or former persona. He worked in a cubicle. He was a cubicle rat, like some of us know about that experience. And he used to write down 20 times a day, I will author my own comic strip. I will author my own comic strip. He wrote it down and he looked at it. You know, I think a lot of times some of us say we have dreams, or there are things we'd like to do, or we'd hope to do. You gotta write it down and then put that plan into action so that you can accomplish things in life. And I'd say that's true for whether we're talking about a career, you're talking about, social relationships, or any activities you have outside of work, maybe in sports or other hobbies and things. You gotta have a plan and move forward. So you should have a personal vision about how you aspire to be recognized. I like to make sure I clarify here a difference between a vision and a mission statement, because I think a lot of times there are individuals or companies who think those terms are interchangeable. And would I be able to have a volunteer, if anybody wants some chocolate, or just for the pride and recognition, please help me draw a contrast here between what we mean by a vision versus a mission statement. I'm holding my breath till I'm purple. I'm not very good at this.
The vision is the destination, the mission is the pathway.
Exactly. The vision is how you wish to be recognized. You're thinking of some future state of being. In a mission statement, what are we going to do? You can think about this from a military perspective. It's your marching orders. It's what you're going to do. And it's how you expect to compete. So this is where we talk about be purple, be different, exploit your core competency, stand out from the rest of the crowd. Another concept that relates to this is the concept of what's in your dash. And this is another presentation that Marianne had put together for an APICS event. I think it was for the APICS Leadership Institute back in either 2005 or 2006. The dash, I don't want to be a downer here, the dash is on your gravestone. It's your life. So for me, it's, 1962 dash, well, we got a question mark on that other one there. The dash is my lifetime. What did I do between when I was born in 62 till whenever that end comes around? So think about what's in your dash. If your obituary was written today, or whoever would speak at your wake or funeral, what would they say? And again, you can start to realize, well, it's nice to have a good career, but there's a lot of things that are maybe more important, the personal relationships, the hobbies, activities, volunteering with organizations like APICS, etc. So take an opportunity to think about what's in your dash and if you fulfilled it. If you thought, heaven forbid, what if I was going to pass this weekend? Have I fulfilled my dash? And that's up to you to put what's in there between the day you're born and the day you pass. The next item, we're taking some stuff from Psych 101 now, Maslow's hierarchy. Who wishes to volunteer to suggest what is represented here?
Your needs.
The highest part of the pyramid? Self-actualization?
Self-actualization.
Sounds right.
And what does that mean?
It's, you fulfilled all of your other tiers of the hierarchy of needs, and now you're finally doing what you were put here to do.
Yeah. At the basic level, it's don't get killed. It really is, avoid death is the basic level. In other words, I gotta have shelter, I gotta have food, I gotta make sure some other animal higher up in the food hierarchy doesn't eat me, so stay alive. And then beyond that, you say, well, it's just not the minimal requirements for shelter. It's maybe a nicer home, have a career, a family, etc. So at the highest level, we talk about I fulfilled all my needs, and now maybe I can do some other things to leave a legacy that's going to help make sure I completed my dash. All right, till your face turns purple. I wasn't really holding my breath because I can't do that without a Newport hanging out of my lip, but the definition here, when we talk about true leadership, it means that, well, when there's tough times, you need a strong leader. But when times are better, well, then maybe there's servant leadership, and you can say, I'm doing things to help support people. Whether you're thinking about this maybe from a political perspective, whether you're thinking about whoever's the leader in the family, whether it's the family patriarch or matriarch, or maybe if you're thinking within your community, your church, any type of civic associations. Sports is a good example there. So what I'd like to do is have us work in teams and share some examples of who you think is a leader. It could be somebody in your personal life, could be your third grade teacher, could be your little league coach, it could be some politician. I just like to clarify something here. Leadership is not speeches and popularities. Leadership is results. So within your table, reach consensus on some idea, and I'd like to hear some out-of-the-box ones. Again, if it's somebody from your personal life, maybe we don't even know the name, but you can pick anybody from history, and I'll give you about 5 minutes for each team to decide who you picked as an example of somebody who was a great leader. And then I'd like to have a volunteer from each table stand up and share who you selected and why. What were the attributes that they showed to demonstrate leadership, and what were the accomplishments? So we'll give you about 5 minutes on that. Oh, excuse me, I need to implement some democracy here because we have to have leaders within our teams here. So if everyone could please point to the ceiling, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, drop. When I say drop, vote. You got to vote at somebody at your table, not me. You are going to select a leader. 1, 2, 3, drop. We got Jerry here. Who do we got here? It looks like Russ. Looks like Russ.
You're closest to the front.
I think you got it. And you got it. All right. Friends, I just want the leader's attention for a second. You're going to have an opportunity to give them the finger back. That means you don't do work, right? A good leader delegates. Your job is to keep an eye on that 5-minute clock and make sure things move along, and look for somebody else to be the one who stands up and volunteers to share. Okay, 5 minutes, please.
Okay.
Everyone's attention, please. If you hadn't figured it all out yet, the leader at least point to somebody and say, stand up and make it up as you go along, because that would be truly purple. Let's see, for this time I'm feeling like counterclockwise and starting over here. So if you could stay auf bitte, that's your German lesson, stand up please, loud and proud and into the camera, share.
Okay. So we chose Oprah
Ladies
because
chose Oprah.
ladies chose Oprah.
Three ladies chose Oprah.
Yes, we did. We voted. So, and Oprah won over. She was started as a news person, right? And she started on a small little show in Chicago. And from there, she just believed in herself, even though other people did not believe in her. And she is now this huge mogul, one of the richest women in the world, and does so much with her women through charities and for other women in helping them, such as her schools in Africa and other areas. So that's what we chose.
And our alternate choice was Derek Jeter.
Thank you, Gary.
So you can see,
Thank you very much. And of course, those who share get chocolate. This is actually multiple times that Oprah has been designated. Our third team, it's going to be hard to trump that.
You're fired.
Yeah.
So we chose George Washington, and we thought about why. Because when he started, first of all, he didn't want the job, but he was thrust into it, and he took the bull by the horns and did it. And he had a really horrible first couple of years. I mean, everything that could have went wrong did go wrong. And it's fun. Some of his biggest genius in the beginning was retreating in the right spot. Right, he knew when to retreat and when to go on offense. And he had made a liberal use of intelligence. He had spies, and he used them liberally. He had a lot of integrity, and people trusted him. So when he told somebody something, they knew he was going to back them up, and he wouldn't let them down. So they were willing to go the extra mile and do anything they could for him. And even before he became president, that was not his idea. He didn't run for it. He didn't volunteer for it. Again, he was thrust into it, and he did a pretty good job.
Thank you. Good. How come General Custer didn't adopt that best practice of using spies?
Or retreating. Okay. So we're actually going to say the name last. We'll see if you can guess. So we're going to do servant leadership first. So this man served as a state senator for New York for many years. From there, he went on to be Assistant Secretary of the Navy, serving his country, then eventually Governor of New York. From there, he eventually became President of the United States. All that time serving the people. But when he became president of the United States, it was in the worst part of our history. We're in the middle of the Depression. Depression started. He took the courage, said, hey, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Any guesses so far? FDR. FDR, there you go.
Hey,
Nothing to fear but fear itself. He took us then through World War II, all that time. And for that, he was courageous in leadership in bad times. He served the people in good times. What didn't I mention about him?
polio.
Polio. Give him a candy. Right, all that time while you had polio.
Please give him a piece of candy. Give him a candy. See, there's Patton over here, right?
I'm not-
Thank you very much. Good teacher. And I noticed with this exercise, the challenge seems to be there's so many examples that we can draw from if we look throughout history of persons who stood up to the plate when it was time to get the job done. The next item we're going to look at is purple haze. See over here, they're thinking it's the hippie lettuce, right? The young kids never get that one, all right? You know the song Purple Haze, Jimi Hendrix. Now here we got to incorporate a little bit of music trivia here. Jimi Hendrix, you're out of this, Gary, because he was here last night. He's not getting any candy for showing up last night at Central Jersey. Jimi Hendrix is one of the 27. Who knows what the 27 is? And it's not 27 people. Young lady?
It's all famous people who died at the age of 27.
Persons who died at the age of 27. So let's see, Jimi Hendrix,
Janis Joplin.
Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison,
And,
Pardon? Kurt Cobain,
Amy
more recently Amy Whitehouse. Yeah, I don't know. Just some spooky things going on there. So sometime we may have in the course of our life been in a room filled with purple haze. So we need to clear this up a little bit so we can find what our personal vision is. And to help us establish what our vision is, you got to think about leveraging your core competency. What makes you purple? What makes you unique? And so I'll talk a little bit more about this on the next slide, but a competency can also be thought of as the competitive factors you compete on. Whether you're talking about a business or you're talking about that from the perspective of yourself as an individual. And another thing we like to do is perform a SWOT analysis. So there's one of our APICS acronyms. What does the acronym SWOT stand for? Yes, sir.
Threats, opportunities, weaknesses, and
Remember Governor Perry say, there's 3 government agencies I want to get rid of. Well, he names the first 2, and then who has it?
strengths.
Well, that's pretty good. Who had that? Who are you putting?
Strengths, weaknesses, what was it?
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So environmental scanning is actually 2 parts there. There's internal scanning. You're identifying your strengths and weaknesses, and there is external scanning, looking for the opportunities and threats outside of the 4 walls of your organization. Now, in terms of internal versus external, from a theoretical basis, what should be easier, internal scanning or external? Internal. In practice, which tends to be easier? Why is that?
Easier to blame them.
You're just blind to your inside.
I might look for a little bit more. What was
You're
that?
just blind to what you can. It's
We're blind. We can't see what's in the mirror and staring back at us, right? We have a bias, right? Or maybe our firm has some groupthink mentality going on. This is not intended as a plug for my services, all right? So I'm being ethical here. But that describes the value when you're doing a SWOT analysis of calling in an outside consultant who can be honest and tell you, hey, look, here's some things you're doing pretty good, and here's some things compared to your competition you're really not too good at. So again, I hope y'all do a strategic plan for your life, and it's going to involve sitting down, maybe sit down with some close friends and say, okay, let's talk about, be honest with me. And that can be rough because just like at a company, When you have groupthink mentality and all these yes men and yes women just nodding their heads to whatever the CEO says, that can happen in your personal life too. Or you're looking for some guidance and some advice, and your buddies are being too good of a buddy, and they're not really being honest with you about some things maybe you could clean up in your life. Or maybe you fail to recognize the things you're really good at. You don't give yourself enough credit. The last exercise is something we've taken from lean methodology, and that is the 5 whys. We say if you want to get to the root cause of any issue or when it comes to solving a problem, you got to ask why 5 times. So if anybody has any little kids, you should enlist them in this because you explain something to them, they, why? And you explain it again, why? So little kids are great at the 5 whys. In fact, they're good at the 100 whys. But this is something that can help us establish what's the real problem. Because I think a lot of times in life, we treat a symptom, or I should say we mask a symptom, as opposed to actually addressing the problem. As an example, let's think, what do most people in this country do when they have a headache? Pardon?
I think it's Tylenol.
Tylenol or an aspirin. I thought somebody said purple haze, you know. Maybe that's the migraine, you know. But I made myself laugh on that one. The aspirin does not cure a headache. It doesn't do anything to prevent future headaches. In fact, taking pain medication just makes it more likely that a headache will occur again because you didn't get to the root cause of the issue, which again, maybe it's a chemical imbalance, you've got migraines, maybe it's something in your diet, you're not getting enough rest, maybe you've got stress in your personal life or you've got stress in your professional life. Aspirin doesn't do anything to those things. It's because you were going after the symptom, that being pain, as opposed to the actual problem. One other thing I'd like to note that I think is very important when we talk about getting to the root cause and solving a problem. I've seen an awful lot of individuals and witnessed an awful lot of organizations banging their head all day long, day after day, because they think they're trying to solve a problem, and it's not a problem. It's what's known as the reality of the situation. It is a fact. There is nothing you can do about it. Accept it and move on. As an example you may be familiar with, because I know this is something that affects the northern tier of Pennsylvania and the Binghamton, New York area where I'm from, I hear all the time from managers, this is a big problem, the cost of low labor rates overseas. I said, that's not a problem. And people will argue with me till they're blue, check that, purple in the face, say, no, this is a huge problem. I go, well, what are you going to do about that exactly? How are you going to change the cost of labor 8,000 miles away? This is not a problem. There's nothing you can do about it. It is a fact. Accept it and move on. And we're talking about efficient use of resources here. Don't waste resources, time, energy, money on something you ain't gonna affect. Can we edit the word ain't out of there so I actually have good grammar on the video? Looking forward to that. Thank you. All right. So when we talk about these sustainable competitive advantages, and I'll talk about this from a business point of view first, because this is an exercise I do in a lot of my training, whether it's APICS certification or other classes. I'll hand out a sheet, and this works especially good if it's like on-site corporate training. So you're soliciting input from a bunch of people who work for the same company. And this sheet will have all kinds of different things you can compete on. Short lead time, on-time delivery. Are those the same thing? What's the difference? Oh, we had some people say no, and when I go, what's the difference?
Well, on-time lead time is you meet the customer's expected date.
Mhm.
Short lead time, you can do better than possibly the customer wants, but your lead time is X number of days or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I could be in like an engineer to order environment, you know? Maybe it's 8 months out before this product's gonna be delivered. So that's not short lead time. But if I say 8 months from now, it's showing up on the customer's receiving dock, it better. So So there's short lead time, there's on-time delivery, there's quality, there's customer service and support. It could be warranty support, returns, reverse supply chain. Could be product variety. Could be location. Could be price. Please don't compete on that. I worked for a company that was a bottom feeder. It's not good because there will always be somebody who is willing to bid lower, take themselves and 5 other companies out of business. So please try not to get in that situation. I'm not saying ignore cost, you gotta have cost control, but please don't be the Walmart or the McDonald's. And I'm not slandering those companies. I shop at both of them a lot, but I'm saying personally, that's not what I aspire to be. I hope people think of Mike Ford as the Lincoln Navigator of trading. In fact, I'll pay anybody in here dollars if you walk around and tell people, don't hire Mike Ford. He's very, very expensive. I will pay you money for that because that's the brand name reputation that I want in the marketplace. But you got to think about what you compete on, and you can't compete on all things. I did a full day seminar on forecasting with a Binghamton area company about 12 years ago. And I gave them this list. I go, what do you compete on? They go, we compete on all those things. I go, that's absolutely impossible. And you think about it, you gotta have a market niche, right? The Motel 6 is not competing with the Hilton, right? McDonald's is not competing with Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. You gotta think about what it is you choose to compete on and be good at that and separate yourself from the pack. This reminds me of an episode I had at a McDonald's in Binghamton. I'm in the drive-thru. Supposed to be 90 seconds or less. That's supposed to be the standard in the fast food restaurant industry. Check that. The quick service retail food industry, all right? And I'm waiting. There's only one vehicle ahead of me. And it looks like this woman is sending food back. And then we got a reverse supply chain going on here, and it's back and forth. I finally,
people.
Pardon?
You got a busload of people.
No, this is a car, man.
Well, that's common anytime you go to McDonald's in Patterson.
Really? Oh,
It's
yeah.
20 minutes with the car in front of you.
No, it was just one
Maybe it's worth
person.
it.
You're starting to eat into my time, Tony.
Okay.
I had to come on. I love participation, but I had to move on. I asked the person, I go, well, what the heck was this that I'm waiting for? Well, she was sampling the food and testing it. I go, does she think she's at a 5-star restaurant? She ordered a fillet of fish, opened it up, took a bite out of it and said, no, that's not good, sent it back. She got her fries, she ate a couple of them and said, no, that's not good, and sent them back. So, oh my goodness, if you are gonna do that stuff, at least have the courtesy, don't do that at the drive-thru. But I don't think she understood what McDonald's competes on. And again, I'm not knocking them. I go there a lot of times. I'm driving home late at night after a class. I'll go in there. I want quick. I don't even care if the order's right. I just count. If I order 3 things in the bag, I'm going. My time ain't worth debating it, right? That's what they're competing on. And in fact, I would dare suggest, if any fast food restaurant improved the taste of their food, they would lose business. Because what we've come to expect is consistency. So whether I'm going to a McDonald's in Totowa or in Binghamton or Omaha or Sacramento, I order a Big Mac, I expect what it's going to taste like. And there was a great example of this back in the mid-'80s when Coke said, let's make our product taste better. How'd that work out for them?
That was a flop.
They said, you know what, in taste tests, Pepsi drinkers prefer New Coke. Well, who didn't prefer New Coke? Lifelong loyal customers. You're the #1 selling soft drink for 100 years and you change the recipe.
They lost like 25% market share.
Always take care of your lifelong loyal customers because it costs less money to get somebody to walk back in on the lot when they purchased from you before. So it takes less money in promotional and advertising and marketing. And they're also the best profit opportunities because that's the opportunity for upselling and cross-selling because they're familiar with the brand. So now apply this to your personal life. What's your core competency? What does your brand represent? When somebody hears your name, are they thinking of something that stands out? All right, who are the Purple People Eaters? And it's not the song.
Oh,
One,
Vikings
horse,
defensive
line,
line.
Purple People Eater. Huh?
The Vikings defensive line.
Minnesota Vikings defensive line. Alan Page, Carl Eller, and Gary Larson and Jim Marshall back throughout the 60s and then into the early 70s. I think that crew might have been together for all 4 or most of the 4 of their Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah, but the song came out in the early 60s in Buffalo.
And where?
In Buffalo.
Buffalo lost 4 Super Bowls too. Wow, we got a real theme here. The dominoes are falling in this trivia
I
here.
don't think that's a causal relationship.
It's a causal relationship.
Marshall has a record of playing 288 straight football games without an injury.
Holy jeez, this guy's got something going on here. That's pretty good. I know sometimes whether we're talking about the Vikings or the Bills, we talk about losing the Super Bowl. Well, I don't know about the sports experience of anybody else in the room. I sure wish Michael Ford was on 4 Super Bowl losing teams. I'd rather be on a winner, but sometimes in society, we get caught up with winning so much. Hey, finishing number 2 is not a very bad thing in life, right? So, hey, I'm a very competitive person. It's great to reach the top, the pinnacle and everything, but maybe we can temper our expectations. Finishing number 2 is not bad, right, compared to the rest of the competition. So what we mean here by Purple People Eaters is that sometimes by success you can make it look so easy. Maybe the Miami Heat are about to do that this year, although I really don't want them to. But sometimes you're so good it looks easy, but do you think it's easy? I mean, these guys, between training camp, the preseason, an 82-game season, and it is 4 rounds of the NBA playoffs, these guys must be in pretty good shape, and they work pretty hard. So sometimes I get frustrated, whether it's athletics, business, whatever. People talk about, oh, some people are just lucky, they seem to catch all the breaks. You know who catches all the breaks? People who bust their ass. Because they create their own opportunities, all right? They probably fail a lot too. I think it was Thomas Edison who said, man, I failed 1,000 times. But he kept trying. And there's an expression that says, well, you gotta be ready when opportunity knocks. I have some disturbing news for you. Opportunity does not walk up your sidewalk, knock on your door. It goes flying down the street, and you gotta be standing on the curb, ready to jump and grab it when it comes by. And you'll be a lot more successful with that when you can create your own purple, because once you've got that purple going on, nobody can take your purple. I want you to think about that when we talk about these leaders in history. Is it really that easy? If it was so easy, how come every president hasn't been as great as George Washington? If it's that easy, how come everybody with a television talk show hasn't had the success of Oprah, right? So sometimes successful people, it looks like, man, they're hardly breaking a sweat. How'd they do that? You gotta believe behind the scenes, they're busting their butt. There's a reason they were successful. If it was easy, everybody else could just copy them and do it as well. All right, now I'd like to have an exercise, and this will be an individual exercise. I'd like each of you to identify either a personal, I really like to be a personal one, or it could be a professional, competitive advantage, a way in which you are going to be purple. So I'll give you like maybe 3 to 4 minutes and decide what are you going to do to be purple, to stand out from the crowd, to be different. And then we'll look to see if maybe there's anyone who wishes to volunteer, hopefully at least one from each table. So 3 to 4 minutes. Tell me how you're going to be purple. Or if you think you've already got some purple going on, a way that you stand out and you're different from the competition, again, whether it's business or personal life, please share that. 3 to 4 minutes, please. And the reason I went that way is because I noticed there seems to be a split. There seems to be a lot of people really smart and great, know the body of knowledge, And then there seems to be people who are more the touchy-feely, very engaging type of presenters. And it's kind of tough because a lot of us are somewhat wired to be either left or right brained. Another example we could say is Steve Jobs, right? In his tenure at Apple, everything he did, this man did not respond to customer demand. He created demand, right? Nobody ever dreamed up those products. He came up with them. So maybe we shouldn't listen to customers, right? Not if you want to be purple, because customers will just tell you, well, they want something like what they've already been buying with a couple different modifications. So
Yeah, Henry Ford said if I ask customers.
if I asked customers what they wanted, they'd say faster horses, right? Nobody with a horse and buggy would have said, I wish to have a horseless carriage driven by an internal combustion engine. And think of all the examples of the leaders that we had in the earlier exercise. What were they doing? How did they stand out? A lot of times it's a combination of management and leadership skills. I know a lot of people who are good managers, not so good at leading. I've also met some good leaders, they're good at motivating people, but they didn't understand strategy and finance and organizational objectives. If this is a tough exercise, I'm glad, because I like to make people work, because you're getting one certification maintenance point out of this and you have to earn it. All right, so let's...
Could have had a PA.
All right, I'm going to go clockwise this time. Do we have at least one volunteer who can share a way that either in your professional life or personal life you can stand out and be purple? Please share.
Yeah, I take risks because whether it's speaking out first or anything, or going into different companies, engaged that I do at work, or I became the treasurer and secretary of the youth wrestling in New Jersey, even though I was a swimming coach. What I found is most people wait till they know everything or just don't take chances. And really, you can just go out there and do it. Don't worry about falling, the ground will stop you falling.
And then you can be recognized as that. And you can say, hey, maybe you will fail a couple times, but it gives you an opportunity to be recognized as somebody who's an agent of change and stand out. Thank you very much, Mike.
And get rewarded.
Here's someone for somebody to think about. Anybody here married and you've been married 50 years? What did you do to land that lady? How were you purple?
You got an answer over there.
51 years.
Wow.
You must be doing something right, Jerry. It could not possibly be an accident.
This would be worth two.
You know what? He's taking these home. That's what it is. It occurred to me another purple that I'm trying to exploit recently. And I was sharing that I may be doing training for a company in the fall that wants training classes Saturday morning. This is for Friday night's third shift. So they want training to follow up on that. So I contacted them and I said, please do not be shy. If the reality is you want me there at midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning, I'm proud to say I believe I'm the world's only 24/365 trainer. I don't care what day, what night, evenings, weekends. If I don't have something else booked, I'm available, and I'm not going to charge you a premium for working nights or weekends. Something that I don't know how many other trainers are looking towards that opportunity. Another way that I am purple is I'm very ethical. I don't want my friends laughing, but I have at many times in my life been accused of being too ethical by coworkers. I don't believe there's any such thing. If you have integrity, ethics, and morals, that's going to be a key to success. It disturbs me when sometimes there are persons or organizations that attempt to portray greedy capitalists as being unethical. No, ethics and greed go together. because if you do things right, you will have the long-term payoff. Being greedy is not consistent with being unethical, because, well, just go check your local prison and see how happy and well they're doing. If you establish good relationships and treat people decently, long-term, you're going to be better off than trying to do things underhanded. And as part of that, I wish to make sure we do acknowledge that Marianne Ross authored this material and gave me permission to use it. And this is a very sensitive topic for me, because I've shared presentations before. People ask, hey, can we have a copy of your PowerPoint or something? And then learn that they're presenting it and took off Mike Ford's and put on their own. So that's the type of thing that's very disturbing to me. So for those of you who know Marianne Ross, I hope you provide feedback if you enjoyed the presentation, and let her know how much it's appreciated, because I certainly wouldn't have been able to do that without her. And I would not have been able to do it without all the purple in the audience tonight. So you guys did a great job on all the exercises and with feedback on the question and answers. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And
On behalf of